It was the morning of March 10th, 2015. I had stayed home sick from school due to my stomach hurting, and thank God for that. It's crazy how looking back at times like this, these defining moments, you can remember every detail, every moment leading up to the climax. In fact, my girlfriend Stephanie had texted me 3 times checking in on me, and I almost silenced my cell phone so I could sleep. Once again, thank God I didn't do that. The first text came from my sister. It read,
Dustin, something has happened. I need you to come down ASAP and see me.
The second text said,
Mom is on her way. Up. Please hurry.
This was strange for a couple of reasons. 1, my sister lives 2 hours away. 2, she had no idea I wasn't in school right now. And 3, the most important, neither of us had talked to our mom in over 2 years. That's when the phone began to ring. It was my mom. I sat there frozen for what seemed like an eternity as I saw my mom's name on my ringing cell phone. I hadn't talked to this woman in years, and now all of a sudden I'm getting a call from her with some apparent big news. Once the initial shock of seeing her name, I cautiously picked up the phone. Hello? I somehow managed to squeak out that little insignificant word. As she began to talk, I could tell her voice was undeniably shaken, and emotion saturated every word. She began rambling, trying her hardest to keep the inevitable bad news away from my ears. Eventually, I got her to stop, and in that moment, everything changed. Mom, what happened?
Doug Jr. has passed away.
My brother?
Yes.
That final 3-letter word cut through me like a razor blade, leaving me collapsed on the floor bleeding out. The world spun and I tried to comprehend what had just happened. In this heartbreaking moment, the innocence of the old world burned to a crisp, leaving nothing but ashes in this new brutal world where death, pain, and grief existed in their most brutal sense. All of a sudden, I went from wanting to be a child to having to be the man that my mother and sister relied on for strength, a role that had been suddenly passed down to me by my late brother. I was angry, hurt, and scared. My own mortality had suddenly slapped me in the face, as well as the fact that I had come to terms that I had just lost my brother. My brother would no longer be able to be my best man, play with my kids when I had them, or even witness my high school graduation. So what comes next? I eventually had to drag myself up from the sopping wet ball of emotion on my floor. I suddenly felt like I was thrown in a labyrinth of suffering and grief with no escape. I asked myself the same question Simone Bolivar asked with his final breath in the novel The General and His Labyrinth.
Damn it! How do I get out of this labyrinth?
How do I stop this gut-wrenching pain inside me? How can I move on? As I thought more and more of his death, I began to blame myself. I was his brother. Why didn't he come to me and tell me how much pain he was in? I was too young and too stupid to just open up my eyes and see that my own brother was in so much pain that he picked up a bottle of vodka and guzzled that fiery poison until he no longer had to feel anything. These questions and feelings served like a broken alarm clock that sucker punched you every time it went off. I turned to alcohol first, and tried to use it to just get a glimpse into his final moments. I drank and drank until I either passed out or fell asleep. Suffering had become my labyrinth, and I desperately needed to find a way out. I found my glimpse of hope through another set of dying words for Francois Rabelais.
I go to seek a great perhaps.
The idea of there being a great perhaps excited me and gave me hope in my darkest hour. But what is this great perhaps? It was my way out of this labyrinth of suffering. Suddenly I no longer wanted to just survive, but I wanted to grow from this experience. My great perhaps was right outside and I knew I had to go get it. My brother's death had woke me up to the brevity of life and the fear of dying before I got to change the world. How am I going to change the world, you may ask? My brother helped me answer this as well in a senior quote by Socrates. Let him that would move the world first move himself. Because of my brother, Doug Williams Jr., I'm finally moving. I'm now going to school to become a history teacher where I'll be able to help other kids towards their great perhaps, like my brother moved me. So if you asked me, I'd say the only way out of the labyrinth is finding your great perhaps and moving towards it. So in closing, I'd like to leave you with a quote of my own. Life is a labyrinth filled with suffering and grief in one corner, and happiness and love in another. The only way to survive is to move yourself through it all towards what Rabelais called a great perhaps. Go find yours.
I felt the earth beneath my feet, sat by the river and it made me complete. Oh, simple thing, where have you gone? I'm getting old.